I'm really excited about this one. I'm excited about speaking to this rabbi right here. But before we get into your intro, I'm going to I'm going to pause the video for my very high profile intro right here. Entrepreneurs in quarantine. This is my my response to not wearing a suit, growing a beard, and having kids yelling outside of my door. And so I wanted to hear from you a little bit about what you're going through as a community leader. Rabbi Fishman, who are you? What community do you lead, and where do you live?
Thanks, Jamie. First of all, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Any time that I am anywhere near social media with Jamie Ben-Israel, the man, the legend, I feel like I've jumped up a number of social states to closer to the top. So my name is Rabbi Mark Fishman. I am here in Montreal, Canada, where I am the rabbi of a congregation, Beth Tikva, which is located in the West Island of Montreal in a community called Dollar des Amants.
So you are someone who, I mean, you are excessively hands-on. You build the sukkah with your hand. You're in there, making challah on Friday nights. You are so actively involved in every aspect of Jewish life.
That's my wife making the challah. That's a little overstatement, but I'll have to give credit where credit is due.
I thought I saw one of your hands in the challah posts. But
no, I don't get my hands anywhere near those challahs.
How have things changed for you from last week to this week?
They have changed in two primary ways. There is a joke that the Jewish Sabbath is a day of rest unless you are a rabbi. So Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, is not a day of rest that's when you work. Let's leave all of the legal, technical parts of that conversation to the side. But it's one of my busiest days of the week. Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, is prayers in the synagogue Friday evening, Shabbat Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. And there is a sermon, there is the greeting of people, there is the catching up with my congregants, the kiddush, the serving of food, eating meals, hosting guests. It's a fabulously busy day. And rabbis have never worked less in their lives on the Jewish Sabbath over the last 2 weeks. Our synagogue doors are closed. Literally, the building is shut, complying with government regulations and requests. And as a result of that, I have had the most relaxing Sabbaths of my life. Been able to get on the couch with my kids and my family and pray, all of us all together. It's been really spiritual and really meaningful and lovely. Contrast that with the days of the week, and oh my goodness, rabbis are working 500% harder. I don't think that we have ever worked harder. The number of people reaching out to me, the number of responsibilities that now fall, the number of things that can't be done in person and are now done virtually, and the number of physical things that have to still happen. Tragically, there are still funerals. Tragically, there are still things which are happening in real time, which actually have to be dealt with. In my community, for example, we were able to get together in a very grassroots, throwing it up against the wall in a few minutes. Sponsors who were able to put forward incredible donations that enabled us to buy food for the elderly, for those who are marginalized, a recent widow, somebody who's going through chemotherapy, and a variety of different people. And volunteers have come out in droves trying to drop off those meals, obviously in a very safe way. It was placed on a doorstep. A phone call was made. There was no physical contact. People were distanced to one another. But these types of initiatives, social initiatives who are looking after people, the communications, the changing over to doing so much on virtual platforms, it's been a ferociously busy time. I've never been busier in my entire career.
Unbelievable. How do you lead in a virtual era when you're hand gestures and your presence is such a major impact of who you are as a leader and of your communication style? Can you convey that virtually?
Can you do virtual sermons? Can you have a virtual minyan?
That's a great question. That's been a very popular question. From a technical perspective, a minyan is a quorum of 10 adults praying together, and there are certain Jewish prayers that require that number. The technical answer is no, actually. You cannot have a virtual minyan because some of the things which need to be said and prayed can only happen in the context of community. Now, that itself is a fascinating idea to explore.
Sure.
Some prayers need community in order for them to happen. Let's think about that for a moment. There are just some things where you need others around you. It's an incredibly interesting idea. So one of the things that we have established is every evening we open up a social conferencing opportunity where all of us regulars who would typically be in synagogue to pray see each other over our computer screens. We have a 5-minute schmooze, preamble, touching base. How you doing? Are you okay? What's going on with you? What's happening with you? Somebody's having a little l'chaim in the corner. And after we touch base and check in on one another, we then go and pray our own private prayers just off camera. And then we all come back once again to conclude and finish up together. There is a memorial prayer that is said for someone who has lost a loved one in their family. That is not said at this time. Again, you actually have to physically be in the presence of 10 people. And so instead, we are substituting that with a piece of learning, and that acts as it is referred to, opportunity to help the soul of a loved one who has passed away. So we're finding all types of creativity to say, how can we continue doing what we're doing? Yes, in a slightly different fashion, and yet in a way that is still enabling us to hit our core mission statement and to still deliver the services and goods of which we are known for and which is our product. And I think this is the great challenge for all entrepreneurs right now. If I can speak with an entrepreneurial hat on right now, I know who I'm speaking with right now, Jamie. Creativity is going to be the defining line between those who survive and those who don't. And I mean in a business sense. God forbid, I don't mean physically. But if a person can be creative and can be totally out of the box, providing things differently, yes, yet still hitting their core values and mission statement, that nimble adaptability will be able to create success.
That is incredible advice from a rabbi. And I mean, being in the rabbi business is no different. You're not immune to the rules of creativity and survival and all these things that you are preaching. So it's really incredible. Great advice for entrepreneurs. Give me one thing that you've learned during this process, a realization, a feeling, a sentiment, something that has come out over the past couple of weeks that you either didn't know was there or that you realized.
So the first thing that comes into my mind, that's a great question, is it's something I think I knew, but it's something I've been reminded of in a very powerful way. And it's a thought that is presented by the psychologist and public speaker, Brené Brown. She speaks a lot about empathy. And she says that when someone is feeling stress or fear or loneliness or anxiety, to sympathize with that person is the worst thing that an individual can do. To say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, or, oh, I really feel sorry for you, or you'll get out of this mess, don't worry. Sympathy can be really punishing for an individual who's struggling with anxiety and stress. Instead, Brené Brown speaks of empathy and the ability not to offer answers and not to offer solutions, but rather to sit with that person in their moment of crisis. So when an individual comes to me, or anybody, What she suggests is simply validating how they are feeling. This must be really tough right now. I don't know what you're going through right now. I can understand that this is something that gives you fear. And by being a receiving, listening ear to the other person's concerns without offering solutions, sometimes that's the most important thing that the person wishes to be able to give. Just give of themselves in their vulnerability, knowing that there's no judgment, knowing that there is not unsolicited answers of advice. Well, you should really try this. Well, here's your fix. This is going to be your solution. But rather to, in a completely objective fashion, I understand what you are saying to me. And that's tough. Let me sit with you for a minute. Just share.
It's almost counterintuitive, but the concept of mirroring and trying to understand what someone is saying by actively listening and showing empathy, it's amazing, because I've been doing these short little capsules to get information out as quickly as possible with bankruptcy trustees, HR consultants, marketing experts, and empathy is the one thing that keeps coming up over and over again. And that brings me to my last question, and I can't wait to hear your advice, but how will life and community change forever after this?
It won't. People have a hope of wanting to be better, and people have dreams and aspirations of waking up one day and being on that great diet where they're going to lose all of the weight, stop gossiping about others. They want to be able to lead the lives they only wish they could. We go through our lives wishful thinking. And suddenly a crisis, and a really serious one, an international global pandemic is a really serious crisis that needs to be treated with as much seriousness as it can. But people then say, well, when we come out the other end of this, our world's going to really change. And it's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for change. But the great secret is that human nature is never changed by sweeping gestures of nature. The world outside could be topsy-turvy, and when it all calms down again, we are just the same people we always were. The hardest thing in the world is to change a person's natural biases, proclivities, their tendencies. To be able to make the smallest change is perhaps one of the hardest things of all. And it's true, these are epic times. But only the person who is consistently going to take small steps every single day is the person whose consistency will allow them to make the smallest of possible changes. A day after 9/11, people were holding the door open for one another in Manhattan. By the end of the week, it stopped. The world changed, but it changed in the blink of an eye for about as long as people could hold their breaths. And it went back to the way it was just a few short days after. Our world will not change. There's an opportunity. This is certainly giving all of us a moment to pause and have reflection. But the greatest secret to personal change is a small step consistently taken over the course of your life. That's the only way anyone ever has changed, and it's the only way anyone ever will change.
That was absolutely brilliant, and I think that anyone who watches this video is now going to be smarter and better for having heard that. I thank you for speaking. You. I thank you for speaking directly from your heart. You're the best. There's nothing else to say. I enjoy every moment that we spend together. Thank you for this opportunity. I know that you have a lot of things going on.
I really feel humbled and so appreciative to be on your show today and to be interviewed by you. Keep up your incredible work. You give hope to so many, and I give you a blessing. You should continue giving hope to all who hear your words. Thank you, Jamie. We'll come out the other end of this soon, and God willing, it will present all of us an opportunity to take those small steps.
That was incredible. Thank you for being with us, Entrepreneurs in Quarantine. Rabbi Fishman, it was a pleasure, sir.